Oh, all right. And the broadcast is live, and we are live, and we are live, and we are live. And we are live on a Friday afternoon. Good afternoon to you. Good afternoon to yours. Thank you so much for joining us. My name is Nkosi. Welcome to Oram Pop and Chats. And for this conversation, we call it "It's a Rap, man." It's a rap with a dim. I feel like today it's a different. It's a rap. It's like I don't know. I think I'm going to mumble all the time. Forgive me. I'll let you know why that happens. But nonetheless, please stick around and be with us for the next 30 minutes or so as we shine the spotlight on. I think it's the first series of conversations that we're going to be having with ladies, and we're kicking it all off with the most beautiful, the most. I think you should see her in person, like face to face. Then you get to understand how I'm feeling right now. And you can ask her a question if you want. You can comment below. You can tell her how gorgeous and how radiating she looks this afternoon. And you can do so in the comment section below. We are live on Facebook. It is Oram Pop In. We are also on YouTube. It is at Oram Pop In. You can find us on Twitter. It is at @n_health with the hashtag. It's a rep with Amira. That is AMIRA. Get it right. And you can also follow us on other social media platforms. And www.popin.org gives you the behind the scenes. I'm going to try and see if we cannot get a few. Actually, we have other things planned for this conversation or beyond this conversation. So stick around to find out what that is. But like I said, man, welcome to it. So today we are shining the spotlight on She Pop Team, talking all things gender affirming healthcare. And like I said, we are profiling different kinds of women. And today we have the ever so gorgeous and ever so radiant. Like, like I'm even like mumbling. How are you? How are you?
Hey,
Are you
I'm
good?
good. How are you, my angel? It's been so long,
Um,
eh?
I'm,
Since the last
I'm
time. It's been
super.
like
I'm
weeks.
super. Listen, yeah, I know. I was excited at the moment when you sent me a picture for the poster. I was like, oh my god, I can't
Oh,
believe that this
yeah?
is happening. And I think like now as it's happening like live, I'm just super excited. But nonetheless, thank you so much for making time for us this beautiful afternoon.
Oh, it's such a pleasure.
And anyway, I appreciate your time.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm
Yeah.
so happy. I got excited when I saw the questions. I was like, oh my God, it's happening. Ah.
Right, right. Speaking about
Yeah,
the question, I
yeah.
think we should just jump straight into them. But for those of you guys who don't know who Amira is, she's from Pretoria. She's studying archives and record management part-time, and she's working as an online tutor. So, I mean, if you were tutoring me, or I will make sure that I don't miss our sessions because I mean, I get to look at a gorgeous tutor at the same time. But hey, enough about me and my rambling and my cooking. Let's jump straight into it. For somebody who looks at you, right, would probably assume that she's a model. She is, she does fashion, she does makeup, she does hair. Like,
Yeah.
who
Oh
is
my
she?
God.
Honestly, well, that's how. Actually, when I mean, so when other people look at you, I mean me. When I look at you, I'm like, model,
Ah,
fashion, makeup, hair, those things. Tell
thank
us
you
more
so
about
much.
you.
So I'm actually very creative. So maybe that's where it comes across. I'm very much into
Yeah,
art and the creatives, and I'm
yeah,
big into makeup, but it's more like something that started recently. It's not something that I've been doing
yeah.
professionally for a long time. So that's probably why you get that vibe from me. Um, yeah, I
Yeah.
suppose I'll just start with my transition, which is actually ironically I started discovering like my creative side around the time that I started my transition. Because when you start your transition, with the hormones having kicked in yet, you kind of rely on makeup and
Yeah.
presentation to be received as the gender that you are. So I relied on that heavily in the beginning of my transition. And I think that's when I started to realize my passion for a lot of things creative. I started my transition like 5 years ago, so
Yeah.
I've had a lot of time to explore my creative side during that time. Um, I don't know what else to say. I always get so nervous when people ask me, "Tell us about you," and I don't know what to say. But yeah, I think that's all I can say for now. Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
actually a very
No,
creative
I got
person.
you. So okay. So please, network must not do this to us this afternoon. I hope Amira is not experiencing load shedding or anything. You know,
No, no, I live in Sunnyside,
none,
and they don't have load shedding in Sunnyside.
But
Hello.
okay, let me while I'm waiting for her questions on you and also on Twitter, we shine the spotlight on gender feminism.
Oh no, load shedding for sure, for sure. It's load shedding. V is gone, guys, because the load shedding.
What happened? Oh my God,
Load
I'm
shedding.
back. Sorry about that.
Is it load
Load
shedding?
shedding, you know how it
I
is.
knew it.
Oh my God. And I was saying in the background, I
I
hope it's not load shedding
knew.
because it took time for us
As you were
to come
saying it,
back.
friend.
But yeah.
South Africa,
Yeah.
guys.
No, but we could. But we could. So let's because I was saying, we starting with this our conversations because we're trying to really shine the spotlight on gender affirming healthcare. And I like how you sort of like touched on, the non-surgical or non-medical transitioning, which would be makeup and beauty and hair and all that. But
Yes,
and you
yes.
said you started 5 years ago. And I mean, do you feel like okay, first, maybe what has inspired you or what inspires you to sort of go on? And I mean, I can imagine that you would face difficulties and you would face challenges like any other person. But I think, for you, it's sort of like you have your cake cut out for you. So what kept on, what made you go on? What inspired you to go on and not give up, even though you started like 5 years ago versus, in the beginning when you were still younger? What made you go?
Yeah. So for me personally, when I took my first hormone pill, I knew this was like something I should have done years ago. And if anything,
Yeah.
during the beginning of my transition, I was working really hard to sort of forgive myself for taking so long, to actually find the proper healthcare. Even though it wasn't my
Yeah.
fault, it was so hard to get through the public healthcare system, that it
Yeah.
naturally takes long for most women to start their transition. But I knew the moment I took my first pill, I was like, oh my gosh, girl, you've been missing out. And the moment my titties started going on, I was like, girl, this is what you've been missing. And
Yeah.
pushing going forward, I would say the idea of, who I was before the hormones and who I was after, the difference is like night and day. That's the number one thing that pushed me to move forward because I knew that if I stopped, there literally is I have nothing to go back to. I think of the Amy Winehouse song Back to Black, which was about her
Yeah.
talking about her relationship, going back to leaving her man and going back to basically nothing, and how depressing that is. That's what Back to Black is about. I would describe detransitioning as the same thing. There's literally nothing to go back to if I was to not be myself. And the other thing is my mom. Without her support,
Yeah.
because even though growing up she was incredibly transphobic and homophobic, in my adulthood she changed a lot.
Yeah.
And seeing her change was a big inspiration for me because it inspired me to hold on,
Yeah.
and also made me realize that there are people out there. Sorry?
Where I meant validated your transition,
Exactly.
validated.
That's
Yeah.
actually the perfect word that I would use.
Yeah.
So having her by my side, and also knowing that, if she can change, having come from such a transphobic, homophobic past, then there are people out there who may not receive me now, but in
Yeah.
time, once they understand me and they want to understand what it means to be transgender, they probably will be better able to receive most of us. So those are the two things that have really kept me moving forward and pushing, and not even
I think,
considering going back.
yeah, of course, no. I mean, I think our journey sort of like shape us, right? Where we are
Yeah.
from sort of like shapes the people that we are right now and shapes the people that we are going to become in the future. And you touch on
Absolutely.
on the support of your mother. And I want us to then talk about the significance of support. And I think you've touched on what kind of support it was,
Yes.
that it was homophobic and but then she was able to change that and accept to accept her daughter and support her. But what kind of, okay, maybe let's start with the importance of having a support structure, especially with immediate family. It could be mom, it could be dad, it could be siblings, it
Yes.
could be whoever is in the house. How important is that,
Mm-hmm.
and what does it mean for somebody who has started on their journey with either hormones or has started transitioning or has just basically just came out and said, you know what, well, mom, dad, I'm trans.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um. So, I think this is a really, really big topic that needs to be discussed so much more often, because the big problem with trans suicide rates is actually lack of support more than anything. It's one thing to deal with dysphoria in your everyday life, where when you look in the mirror, you don't see the woman that you feel you should see as a trans woman, but it's so much worse when socially the people around you who you naturally want to feel, you naturally seek validation from, you naturally seek love from, you naturally
Yeah.
seek compassion from. When those people deny you that compassion, that empathy, that love, um, it makes it so much worse. It makes so much your reality as a trans woman, the dysphoria you deal with every day, it makes it so much worse and so much harder to deal with. I think a big,
Yeah.
and I've said this a lot, a big difference with She Poppin' is the psychosocial support. Being able to meet other transgender women that I talk to, that I am now friends with, which I didn't really have the opportunity to do before, because we're not,
Yeah.
the trans women are like 1% or 0.1%, really small percentage of the population. And so we don't see each other. It's not like I can go to the club and just find a trans woman there that I can communicate with. And so it means so much to have this group where we can all get to know each other and we'll naturally make friends that,
Yeah.
we make friendships not just based on being transgender, but also based on things that we have in common, things that we actually like about each other. It's even more reaffirming because you can get to be appreciated for who you really are, but also be seen for who you really are. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, it does.
It just,
It does.
yeah, it helps a lot mentally to move through the already heavy burden of having gender dysphoria. So it's incredibly important. And I know for a fact that if it wasn't for my mom's support, I would not be here. And if it wasn't for She Poppin's support, I don't know where I would be, because I was already kind of sinking, without the support, with, getting, I discussed this with some of the girls, that I was getting my medication on my own independently. And one of the
Mm.
girls who I'm friends with actually in the group was also having to get medication on her own outside of the group for several years
Okay.
before the She Poppin' thing. And
Okay.
we both had the option of going through public healthcare system,
Yeah.
but it's literally that bad that it's almost better to just self-medicate,
Mm.
and
Mm.
find your own way
Yeah.
out of it. So yeah.
Yeah. I'm glad that you sort of like found your way to a sort of like sisterhood, as I'd like to call it, because I think
It
you
is.
need, like-minded people, and I've had the privilege of attending some of your few sessions with the girls from Nguleni, and there is that sense of, yes, we have something in common, or we have similar things in common. Either, it could be beautiful things or it could be challenges, but we have some things similarly or in common, and
Mm,
beyond that, we can still form a friendship outside the group, and we can then bounce off of each other in terms of supporting and having that. And I think
yes.
it's quite beautiful. We don't see that a lot, and you are right when you say I'm going into a club and finding somebody who's trans. I don't like to say transgender. I just like to say women. You bump
I
into a
agree.
club and you see a woman like you, and you're like, oh, I can relate to that, and have a conversation with them. And it's so much so hard, to find them at a bank, at ShopRite, at Wendy's, at whatever,
And
and it's like, when are we going to then start having a conversation about one, the injustices that is that these women are not parts of this. South Africa is not inclusive. Why are they not part of these things? Are they part of? Why are they part of these little positions that are in these institutions? So we need to then start having a conversation around that. And you touched on self-medicating, which I can think. Well, I think it's a form of a challenge that you faced. Wouldn't you say what that possibly is one of the greatest challenges that you had? Because self-medicating, you don't have a job. Where do you find the money? How does mom take care of you, take care of the household, take care of your extra, extra murals or extra things, and then now pop money out for you to go buy your hormones? Like, how is that sort of like journey? How hard is it to buy medication for yourself and then still look this gorgeous?
oh my gosh. No, the thing is, this is why I always say it's support. Support is like such
Yeah.
a big thing, because there will be moments, that the unemployment rate for trans women is incredibly high. And also, I mean, if you just look at most corporate spaces, not a lot of people are open to hiring transgender women. I know in the beginning of my transition, for about 2 or 3 years, I couldn't work because my ID, first of all, said male, and how I looked was still kind of changing. And by the time that my body had sort of caught up to looking a lot more female presenting, I still didn't have my ID. So it was sort of like, there was just no way out in a way. I was kind of put into a corner. And a lot of the times, this is what a lot of women end up having to do, is relying on sex work to actually supplement the transition. And it's an incredibly dangerous industry. I mean, very dangerous. And having to be backed into a corner where you have to do that is so dehumanizing. But I know so many, including myself, who've had to be in those situations to get medication, to get what I need to get. I've had to be in really uncomfortable situations just to get a prescription, because I couldn't, unless you can go to you have to go see a psychiatrist for like 6 months to a year, and then they give you a letter, and then you go and get the hormones. If you can't do that, you have to go back door. And so I had to do some things to get the prescription so I could get my medication. And so that's the thing that happens when you don't have the support. You end up in these really vulnerable situations where people in power can take advantage of you, especially men. They can take advantage of you, and you don't really have anywhere to go, because you need the medication, and you know that the support systems that are there don't care to give you the medication. Oftentimes, you don't have the right support system that cares to give you the health care you deserve as a transgender woman. And so it puts you in all sorts of vulnerable situations. And even me, with the support of my mom, I have had to be in very vulnerable situations just to get medication.
It's quite sad, because I mean there aren't a lot of Amiras who are resilient and rise above the challenges and still pull this face. I mean, hey, look at you. And people tend to if they go the big route, Amira, and I think we can share some kind of stories either we've experienced or we've heard of girls that have unfortunately lost their lives, because they went the big route, or they were vulnerable and other people took advantage of them, because there was that sense of power that was taken away from them, that sense of
absolutely,
because the way that and then there was a need. For me, it's saying gender feminine healthcare is a need. It's not a what's the word they use, that they like throwing these big terms, and I'm like, but it's not that, it's a need. So if I'm able to say, but this is who I am and this is what I need, it is a need. And if you are denying the person that those things, and then a person can simply be, you cannot be yourself if you are denied such things. And hugely transgender women or transgender people or gender diverse people are faced with those challenges on a daily. When it comes to Healthcare, it's terrible. I wish,
Oh,
I don't know. I mean, me, I'm in awe every time when you guys explain like the waiting list is like 100 years. I'm like, what? Are you kidding me? We have so many doctors, we have so many hospitals, we have so many. Why is the waiting list so long? Why must we jump hoops? Why must the ladies like travel from Cape to Cairo just for a single letter?
oh,
And now to change the
yeah.
gender marker as well. So for me, it's quite interesting. I want to then touch on institutions and how they treated you, right? You still have not changed your gender marker. I'm assuming that that is a something that you are still yet to do. Um, or
No,
if
I
you
have.
have, what were some of the treatment you have? Great.
I
You see,
have.
it's another plus. Amazing. Thank you. So before then, or even still now, how are institutions treating you? And when I mean institutions, I mean institutions like banks, like school, like companies. How when you before you changed the gender marker versus now where you have changed the gender marker, how has the treatment been like?
Honey,
I
night and
know.
day. I literally
Yeah,
like night and day. Like it's a completely different experience.
yeah,
And the thing is about it is obviously when you're transgender and your gender marker says male, you are now visibly transgender. And so
yeah.
you become a target. So oftentimes it used to be, I mean, not even oftentimes, all the time, I used to dread having to do anything with my ID. Now, if you're a person, like just being a citizen in South Africa, you know how often you have to use your ID. There's so many things now that you have to avoid, that you have to, and you can't really avoid everything that requires an ID, but so many things you have to work towards
Yeah.
avoiding because you don't want to be in that situation where someone literally finds out you're transgender and now they feel validated in dehumanizing you and mistreating you because they know that
Mhm.
they have this secret, I guess, this ammunition over your head, it's I really can't explain how the treatment is so different. The level of safety being able to have that gender marker, the level of safety it affords you, particularly in traveling as well.
Yeah.
I remember
I mean,
Yaya
it's
Mavunga.
you know what, we can talk about the challenges and until the kettles come home really. And I think a lot of people, what's happening? Are we experiencing load shedding again? I don't know what's happening.
I can't hear you.
On the screen below. No, we are experiencing load shedding again. I don't know what's happening. We're
Oh,
experiencing some kind of
I'm
yeah.
sorry,
I
Angel.
got your response from that previous question. And, it's
Okay.
okay. It's okay. So I'm inviting questions and comments on the comment section below. Sabelo Rafik, they're all the way in Pumalanga. Says you are beautiful. And I agree.
Thank
And we are seeing a
you.
lot of love popping in us. Thank you so much. If you have any questions for Amira, please send them through. We are live on Facebook and also on our YouTube channel, also on our StreamYard platform with the hashtag it's a rep with Amira, and you can send through your questions. And yeah, man, if there's anything that you would like to share, maybe you are a gender diverse person or somebody who is living as or rather living as or in, with the living in the LGBTQI community, please share your experiences with us in that regard. So let's then talk about we touched about institutions and how they've treated you, and now they treat you differently. You see how hypocritical is that a word? I'm not great with words, but we are hypocrites. I mean, and I'll tell you
Yes.
because if I treated you differently when I saw your ID before you changed your gender marker, and I'm treating you differently now, I'm being a hypocrite. Why should they do? Why? I should, guys. I feel as if it's so simple, and people don't get it. People just want to complicate it, and these are people that are not sensitized. We need to. I don't know how this conversation should start, but people just need to treat people right. It does not matter
Exactly.
what I see on the ID. It doesn't matter. I just need to treat you right. It's
Yeah.
crazy. Let's talk about T popped in. Oh, before I want to find out when did you change your gender marker and was the process easy or was it difficult?
I changed my gender marker about officially, I think it was about 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago. So no, I should say 2 years ago because it took me 3 years. And this, no, I'm so sorry. 3 years ago because it's actually my 6th year this year, I think.
Wow.
Yeah, I'm hitting
20,
6 years this year.
2023. Yeah.
Sorry?
Yeah. I'm saying it's 2023, probably counting
I
other years you
completely
forgot.
forgot.
Yeah.
No,
Yeah.
yeah, it's actually 6 years. So it's been 3 years. It was 3 years ago. And it took me 3 years to do it. At the time, it was a lot harder than it is now. From what I've heard, the girls are doing it much easier now because there's a lot of advocating that happens. So it helped a lot of people. But when I was doing it, it took forever. And then I had to go and I remember I went to go fetch my ID, and then they wanted me to go get my birth certificate where I had applied for the ID for the gender marker change. And so I had to stand a whole lot of lines. The first line was to actually apply for the gender marker. Then I had to go back and get a birth certificate. That took a while. And then I had to wait a few weeks once I submitted the birth certificate with the forms. And I had to wait for all of that to be approved. And then I had to reapply for the actual ID now officially. So it
Girl.
wasn't it was like a whole lot. Oh my God, I went through a whole lot of processes. And then after that, they don't change your matric certificate. So you have to go now and change your matric certificate. And that took an extra year to change. So that added another year on everything. I swear. Like, yeah.
Wow.
And then I had to go change like banks and stuff. The banks and
Yeah.
financial institutions weren't as complicated as
Yeah.
like the matric certificate and the actual ID. It's just that you have to get two specific letters. They don't actually believe you if you just come with your ID. I think they just assume it's like fraud or something. So you have to come with all these letters proving that I changed my ID. And you have to present that. But that's not as complicated as getting your official documents. That's
Yeah.
usually
No,
way
but
more complicated.
the entire thing for me just sounds way too complicated because there's a lot of papers from here to there to proving everything. They're just basically
Yeah.
proving your existence. I think there is for me, seriously, I feel as too much admin, and I feel for me it just should be just one thing, one stop shop. You go in Home Affairs, you fix the gender marker, it changes everything. They update everything. I mean,
Exactly.
yo, yeah, because
It
now
should,
from
because
pillar to
if you
pillar,
think about it,
yeah,
with your matric certificate, once you have your ID, your matric certificate is invalid completely. You can't take it anyway. So it would make sense to change that all at the same time. But they don't care about that.
when you change your ID, even your birth certificate, even your driver's license, your passport, everything, everywhere should change. But that is just
Ab-
basically, yeah,
Absolutely. Like the whole having to go and get a birth certificate thing really frustrated me. And I had to wait for my birth certificate when, all of it should have been done at once. I shouldn't have had to break it up into little 5 different procedures that took
yeah,
3 or 4 years, you know?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah. Are you there? V?
No, no, I see what you mean.
You're freezing.
Sorry about that. We're just
Okay.
going to just dip in and out because of it. Don't panic. Don't leave the screen.
Okay.
It happens. I want us to talk about She Popped In. I mean, when you were sharing with me how you found out about She, I wish I think everybody should know about the story. But yeah, take us through how did you find out about She Popped In? And I think you've been touching on how what kind of an experience it has been for you, especially
Yeah.
with meeting some of the girls and mingling around with, I guess I want to say, like-minded people that get you, people that understand you. Where did you find out about it, and how has the experience been like?
Yeah, so I was getting my PrEP medication managed by Aurum Poppin. And then one of the lovely staff at Aurum Poppin who was handling my medication told me about She Poppin, and that it's a new program that's starting out,
Yeah,
and I was put on the waiting list, like right at the
yeah,
beginning of everything.
yeah,
Um, and then I was put into contact with Onika, And then Onika was who, that from Onika, that's when I actually started to get really, obviously, into the program because she's in charge of the whole thing. Yeah, and that's how I found out about the whole thing. So yeah, and do you want me to say how it's been and everything?
How is it been?
I think I've already said that. I think I've already said it's
you
been
did.
like literally like
Say it
heaven
again.
sent. Heaven
How is
sent,
it
like
been?
literally. Oh my goodness, I can't describe how much self-esteem it's given me to
All right.
be surrounded by this much support. It's the healthcare
The
on top
network
of
is
it,
doing the
being able to access healthcare and being able to talk to a doctor directly who's not trying to exploit you. Like, they actually want to help you and your transition. I just can't describe. It's like being seen as a human being for the first time, in the healthcare system. Just being seen as a full, complete human being, worthy of the same things, the same kind of healthcare that everyone else deserves, It's a very healing process. I know that sounds a bit corny, but it literally is.
Yeah, for me, I totally completely get you. I want us to talk about how can the healthcare, I don't want to say public or private or whatever, but let's just say healthcare holistically, better respond. How can it better respond to gender affirming healthcare? Because I think what the model that we have at Pop In is quite organizations that have the same model. It is
You froze again.
Oh yeah, I think it might be the network again. I totally suggest they move offices to Sunnyside because wow, you get living the entire life because of load
So we don't,
shedding.
yeah, because Sunnyside doesn't have load shedding.
Yeah, or they should move it to Capital Park. Also where I stay, there's no load shedding and all that.
Oh,
So
really?
yeah.
Yeah, I feel like, yeah, but I mean, it's like not everyone can move to Sunnyside. But I get what you mean. It would be more productive.
V, are you back?
Oh, hey, V. Who's the fourth person coming in?
It's actually V. I just need to remove the third
Oh.
person. Yeah. V, are you here?
sorry. Sorry about that. It's my
There's no
network.
sorry.
You are
There's
perfectly
no sorry.
fine.
You must
It's
move
my
the
network.
offices.
So I just want to, yeah, I want happy. I want us to wrap it up because it's not giving us the things. Listen, we are planning. We want to do a photo shoot, right, for the Meg. I think, and I'm saying this publicly without even consulting other people that are into consults and I get into trouble, but I don't mind. For you to be the face of the first issue of the Meg. We'll talk about it privately, of course, and talk about logistics and all that. But definitely, you are gracing the cover of the magazine, and I think your journey, then we can go in depth, right? Yeah, we can then go in depth and talk about other things, obviously, things that we both agree on. And yeah, I feel as if it's saying that the conversation needs to start, or these kind of conversations they need to happen as often. So I think the magazine is just an extension, or for us to have these conversations, and maybe also during the year we can do something where we are just face to face, not just live because the network is not happening, but definitely that.
Yes, I would love that so much.
To the details. Because in closing, because I had like three other questions, but my network is just betraying me. My screen is just popping with hearts because I think they're your hearts. They're not full. They see me every day.
No.
They give you hearts. It's fine. I'm jealous.
Oh my God.
I wanted to say I wanted to say that, what is the goal? That would be my last question. What is the goal for you, when when you reflect about how far you've been with the journey, or how far you've been in your journey? What is the goal? Where do you see yourself? I don't say ending up, but where do you see yourself touching in all those spaces? And when you finally look at yourself and say, actually, I did this. Where is that goalpost, so to speak?
Yeah, I will say like two main ambitions. The first one is actually completing my transition, and so getting SRS surgery, incredibly expensive. But that's that's a dream of mine, getting SRS. And
Yeah.
then I would love to this being a part of Sheep Hopping has really inspired me a lot. I've made so many allies that I'm actually a lot more inspired to speak about my story and share it with a lot more people. So I would love to communicate in the future. I'd love to connect with so many more trans women in the way that I already have with Sheep Hopping, and advocate for trans women a lot more, because I would love for healthcare. I really think the fact that it costs over 500,000 to complete a transition is crazy. And I would love for in the future for trans healthcare to be a lot more accessible for trans women, and for more people to see it as a need, because it is a need. It's not cosmetic. I don't just want to look cute. I actually want to stay alive. So if I could advocate for people to see it that way, that would be the most fulfilling thing for me. If I could get to that point where more people see the urgency of trans healthcare. Yeah, so those are my two main goals. Oh, is V gone again? With his beautiful smile.
Yeah, no, the entire load shedding is such a bad situation.
Bummer. But I like the frame that it froze in. Look at him smiling so much. Hey.
Yeah, I think he's back now.
But it's frozen. But it's frustrating me. It's frustrating me. But
It feels
yeah,
so
I think we're
nice,
gonna leave it
that
there because the
smile.
network is so jealous.
Okay.
It's something exciting. We'll be diving deep into her journey, and speak about other things in between. And so, thank you so much for joining us. I really appreciate your time, Amira. I appreciate you so much. Stay amazing, stay beautiful, still radiating, stay stay the awesome person that you are. And I cannot wait for us to, physically take snaps, do the things. And I know that your is going to inspire a lot of trans people, and just people in general, actually everybody. And I think it's a story worth listening to, and it's a story worth sharing. And thank you so much for your time. Hey.
Thank you so much, V. Thank you so much for picking me, honey. Thank you so much. It means the world, the world. Thank you.
Anytime. Happy. Thank you so much for being technical all the way in the US. Please come back. We miss you. But that's why we're going to wrap it up for this week's
Right. All right. Thank you, V.
conversation.
Bye.
Being the lookout for that make. I mean, streaming. Bye.